G'day guys and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be having a look at my favourite rescues of 2023. Now this is actually a video I was meant to put together at the start of the year, obviously. I just didn't get around to it because I had loads of other content. Now even if you guys have watched everything I've put out, there's stuff in here you haven't seen. So make sure you hang around because there are some absolute beauties in here and I can't wait to show you and go through it with everyone. Alright, let's get stuck into it. Let's go. Here we are, got the laptop set up. We can go through this together. Tiliqua and Slash behind me, they can have a watch. But first up, we've got two honourable mentions. Now this is two clips which you guys wouldn't have seen before. One involving a blue tongue, one involving a red-bellied black snake. And I don't think you'd even be able to guess what happens here. Let's take a look. Here we are, all proud of myself, heading down the hill. We've just released a golden crown snake. It was super cool to see. And what's about to happen here, you wouldn't expect. So, oh, you nearly stepped on a blue tongue. Oh my God. What the hell? He's a stonker.
Oops.
All right, we'll send him on his way. We don't want to harass him too much, but what a specimen. Look at him.
Ooh.
He's a weapon. All right, off you go, big fella. That's like scripted. But absolute crack up, guys. We could not stop laughing. So we sent the blue tongue back on his way, jumped in the car, and then I think we headed to a diamond python rescue from there. It's so awesome getting to see these animals in the wild. Something I bet a lot of the Yanks watching would be jealous of. Heading into our next honourable mention, we got a call out for a red-bellied black snake. So he'd been run over and the person saw him slither away and he actually slipped down this drain. So we didn't know where he was going to be. We didn't know if he was still going to be in the drain. We didn't know if he was alive, how injured he was. We just had no idea. So we got out there as quick as possible. And this is what happens next. This is how you know calm doesn't exist, because this is what happens when you try to help.
Oh, Joe. Oh, Joe. Oh, Joe. Are you okay?
Oh, yes.
Oh my God.
Did you film that?
Yes.
Oh, it's a beautiful red-bellied black snake. Not a bad size either. So the poor bugger just hasn't made it, unfortunately. So I don't know if this was some sort of booby trap. It's a pyramid. It's like the pyramids, booby trap. As you can see, guys, you do something nice, this happens to you. It's just like an Egyptian booby trap. Someone didn't want us down there. But we made it so this snake didn't die in vain. We removed him from the drain. We took him out into some surrounding bushland and just returned him back to nature. He'll be eaten by a bird, some predators, bugs, something. Just something so the animal doesn't go to waste. Something I always like to do with any animals that pass. Alrighty, now we are on to our top 5 reptile rescues of 2023. It was so hard to choose just 5 rescues, let alone to put them in order. But coming in number 5, we've got our big lace monitor that was loose around the suburbs of Western Sydney. This guy was running around Western Sydney for about 7 days. We were getting calls from different people saying he's here, he's there, he's disappeared, he's gone. And oh, the amount of stress I went through that week in trying to catch this lizard, worrying about if he was going to get shredded by a dog or run over by a car. But finally someone gave us the call saying, he's in my shed, I've shut the door, he's trapped, come and get him. And that's exactly what we did. And here we are, entering the dragon's den. Thankfully, this guy's still here. You have no idea how many rescues, how many calls we go to for snakes, lizards. We get there, yep, it's under the pot, I promise. It's under the chair, it's under the box, I promise it's there. We get there, lift it up, it's not there. Complete waste of time. It happens way too often. I mean, I don't blame people for not wanting to check under things, but hey, you do you. So here's our Lacey. He's keeping nice and still, thinks we can't see him. Even if he does, he knows he's big and bad enough to mess us up. Not only do these guys have 4 legs with incredibly sharp claws on the end, They've got a mouthful of razor sharp teeth, venom glands, and they've got a tail that can whip you in the face, the eye, and anywhere in between. Now those claws are razor sharp. They are tree grinders. I've seen them hang on to bricks, they're that sharp. If they get you with those, they're gonna mess you up. If they get a bite on you, they're gonna mess you up even worse. Cop a bite from one of these guys, they're gonna shred tendons, veins, ligaments. You're pretty much guaranteed some sort of surgery. Look at the fight he's putting up, but there he is. We get him out. And in true reptile rescue fashion, what do I get? A big poo all over me. Cover me to say thank you. And you can see him popping his hemipenes here, so we know he's a male lace monitor. We already know he's a male due to the size. Males get a lot larger than females, and this is a big bad male lace monitor. So we got him at home now. We're gonna do a thorough assessment on him. We're gonna get him moving around the yard, climbing, running, walking, doing everything he needs to do out in the wild to survive. Now we just need to make sure there's no injuries, make sure he hasn't been injured by a person, a predator, a car, a dog, anything like that, because we don't want to send him back into the wild compromised at all. And just listen to the noise that these guys can make. They would just be terrifying to anyone or anything they're coming at, wouldn't they? So we got him out moving around. He's doing everything he needs. He looks fantastic. I have no doubts about sending this guy back home. And you can see how smart and intelligent they are. This guy actually tries to head back into the box that he'd been in for the last few hours because he knows he's safe and hassle-free in there. He knows that I wasn't bugging him when he's in there, and he's doing me a favor anyway. So I'll let him climb in, I'll chuck the lid on, and then we can get him in the car, take him back home to where he belongs. Now I brought him back to this patch of bushland right in the heart of Western Sydney where he was originally from. Now it's so impressive that a predator, an apex predator, such a large animal of this size, can possibly live and thrive in this size bushland, but he obviously does it, him along with many others. I know people that have spotted lace monitors, hatchlings in this reserve. But this guy just got himself a bit lost. He'd travelled roads, highways, probably train tracks, and he got a few k's out into suburbia and couldn't find his way back. So thankfully enough, we were able to find him eventually, grab him and bring him back home into a much more appropriate habitat than the bustling streets of Western Sydney. And as always, reluctant to get out of the box. I have to give him a little bit of a nudge eventually. You can see him flicking that tongue. Now these guys have a Jacobson's organ in their mouth, just like a snake. So they'll flick out that forked tongue, they'll pick up scents on the forks of that tongue, bring it back into their mouth, rub on the Jacobson's organ, and from there they can work out where their prey is, where they are. It's their sense of smell and direction, and they're just such a fascinating creature. Now we'll give him a move along now, and let's just have a little glimpse of this guy climbing up his tree, return to freedom and his natural habitat. Oh, and how good was that, guys? You should be starting to know what you're in for with that being number 5. It's just going to get better and better from there. Next up in the list, coming in 4th place, number 4, is a rescue on this eastern brown snake, the second most venomous snake, not only in Australia, but in the world. So this was an interesting one, guys. This snake had found itself into some buildings within some showgrounds, and on this day there was a cactus or cacti expo show, whatever you want to call it. Not something that I knew people were so excited over that there would be a huge room full of cactuses with people coming to have a look. But hey, there you go. So this eastern brown snake, it got itself, I don't know, maybe under the doors. There was actually lots of gaps in the shed around the outside. So it was a big shed. There was gaps you could get in and out. But essentially, they saw him the day prior when they were setting up, and they thought he'd just move on. Unfortunately, he didn't, and he was still in here with, God, there's probably thousands of people in there. So we didn't want him to get hurt. We didn't want anyone to get hurt. The best thing we thought to do would be to try and remove him from the situation. So of course, he's headed into this hole here to get away from everyone. He's obviously scared. First off, we tried to get him with my hook. It didn't work. So I found the fire reel, which was right there, which obviously gave us a lot more length. It was quite stiff, but also a little bit bendy, so I could try and wrap it around. And you'll see here, I actually got a lot further with it than I thought I would. I nearly got him out with the hose. But of course, he unwraps himself and just heads to the back of the penetration again. Now I thought I'd have another try. I found this copper bar. I duct taped it to my snake hook. And that gave me more length, but I had the actual hook to try and pull him out. But he just kept moving away, and you can see he's had enough here, and he actually escapes up into the next layer. So from here, we got no option but to try and open up the wall. And luckily there was some metal there, which was just riveted on. I had my tools in the car. I was able to drill out those rivets, access the hole to where this snake was now, and it's made it much, much easier. A lot more room for me to access him, get in there and get him out and return him back home. So again, I used my copper rod with my hook on the end, and there he is, straight out, straight into freedom and straight into my bag. I think I actually got a cheer and a clap for that one. Felt very appreciated. So right near the showgrounds, we got some beautiful Cumberland Plain bushland. I actually released another eastern brown snake here 2 days prior. It was huge. It was probably 6 foot. It was under a slab of concrete. They moved the slab of concrete in the construction site. They were a bit worried it could have been injured. He wasn't injured. He came flying out of the bag, disappeared. We didn't even get to have a look at him. This one's a little more slender. It's still a long snake, but a very beautiful snake. Reluctant as always coming out of the bag. These snakes, they don't want anything to do with humans. They want to stay in their nice, dark, safe hidey holes. So we're going to have to coax them out a bit more. But before we do, have a look at the bands on this snake. So eastern brown snakes, they can come in so many different variations, different patterns, different colors. It's always interesting to see what sorts you turn up. And this one had those 2 beautiful dark black bands on the back of his neck. After a bit of coaxing, out of the bag he goes. He's just looking for a place to get away from me. No chasing, no aggressiveness. And he finds some rubbish which would be perfect for him, and away he goes. Not to be seen again. Now it's always such a pleasure to rescue eastern brown snakes. They don't come up all so often. I'm not too sure why. They seem to just stay more to their own devices out in the field. They don't, well, from my experience, they don't end up in people's houses as much. Not like the red bellies. The red bellies are everywhere. So of course, coming in at number 3 is absolutely huge red-bellied black snake. He found himself lacking a bit of energy for the day, so he thought, I'm going to stick my head in this V-can and get a little bit of a drink, and he just couldn't get out. Let's jump in, we'll have a look at this one. There he is. Look at the size of that red-bellied black snake. It is still to this day one of the biggest ones I've seen. And how deep is he in this can? I can't believe that he got himself in there. The can has literally dug into his skin. There is absolutely no way he would have been able to get out without it being cut off. It actually looked like it had been there for a few days. His skin was starting to heal around the can, holding it there. It's just not like anything I'd ever seen, and I still haven't seen since I did this rescue. And when I eventually got the can off, you could see bits of shed, bits of skin, bits of scabbing in the can, which was indicating that he'd been there for at least a couple days. And the person that called me for this particular snake was absolutely fantastic. They saw this snake on the road. They raced back home. They grabbed the bucket. They knew that the snake couldn't hurt them because the head was in the can. They chucked it in a bucket so it was safe and secure for when I got there. It wasn't disappearing. It wasn't getting run over. And you wouldn't believe it. Someone actually pulled over to her and said, "Why are you saving the snake? Just run it over." Such a shame that there's still people with this mindset in this day and age. But she did the right thing, and this snake got a fantastic outcome. So you can see, because of how tight this cam was, it was so hard to get off without causing any further injury, any further cutting, anything like that. I had to sort of squash and move the can, slowly chop away with different types of snips. It was pretty stressful, to be honest, because I was so worried about causing any extra or unnecessary injury. You can see here, I've got a little hole so I can see where his head is, how far his head's in. I now know more of what I'm working with and can continue to chop away safely. We're really starting to get him free now. And this is where it gets a bit dicey, where his head can pop out at any minute and you don't know what's going on. Oh, and exactly like I said, he sensed freedom a little bit too early and pops his head out the side. And I'm like, oh, let's get something to cover that up and keep his head in there. Oh, for the time being. So now he's safe and secure. I'm safe, he's safe. We can continue to get the rest of the can off. And he eventually pops out as easy as that. Now I did a quick assessment here with my snake tubes just to see the extent of the injuries, whether I needed to take him or whether he could just be released straight away. I made the decision to take him, took him to the vet. They had a little look, we cleaned it up, checked to see if he needed any antibiotics, but it seemed fine. It didn't seem so open or infected or anything. So I think I had him for maybe 2 or 3 days until a nice sunny weekend. I took him back out here and released him. And looking at the can here, you can see how scraped away the green is. There's no green left on the can. So once that snake got his head in, he was obviously moving around, scraping on the road for a good amount of time to completely take that color away. And just like our lace monitor, well, not like our lace monitor, this patch of bushland's even smaller. This was a slither of bushland along the side of the highway and houses. Apparently the red bellies are quite prominent there. People walk their dogs, they see them basking on the side of the road. So they're just absolutely thriving in there. There was a bit of a causeway, so there'd be frogs and skinks and everything for that red belly to get to that size. But yeah, and since then I've actually had a few more calls for red bellies in this area. So it shows how well these guys thrive in our suburban areas. Look at him there. What a stunning specimen. He was an absolute pleasure to save, to keep, and to be able to send back to safety. And away he goes, just like nothing happened. As you guys can imagine, that was such a fulfilling rescue. That's something which 100% would have led to a death if I didn't get there, and potentially a painful one if he was run over first. There's millions of red bellies out there, but to still be able to save and help these guys in need, it means the absolute world. Now coming in at number 2, we have another snake, but this one is a diamond python. So a non-venomous species of snake we have here in Australia. They are absolutely stunning. They're quite local to where I am in Sydney. I'm in the Hawkesbury. You've only got to go a few streets away before you start seeing them. Obviously, the further you go into the mountain range, you see them more and more and more. This particular snake was found probably 15 minutes from my house, and wait until you guys hear this story. So this diamond python, it was actually in a funny location. It was right on the edge of its range. So I don't know if it just followed the river down to sort of that point, or if it had sort of been wrapped up in a car, because there's a car park there. It could have wrapped up into a car a little bit further up the mountains, come down and fallen out there, but we'll never know. But essentially, the exact right person found this snake. A lot of people would have walked past this snake thinking nothing was wrong. Luckily, he knew his reptiles, and he noticed that the head was extremely swollen. Because it was mainly swollen, there was bleeding, but it was inside. It was the swelling and how big that head had turned, which was most obvious. So thankfully, this person dropped the snake off at the local vet, and I was able to go pick him up. The vet the snake was dropped off at was actually a horse vet. So I took him home for an assessment, and this is what's going on here. We're giving him an assessment. We're having a good thorough look at the injuries, seeing what he's going to need before we run him down to North Richmond vets, our reptile vets. You can see in the clips that there's no problems with the body. There's no problems with movement. He's moving, he's gliding along the ground. Absolutely no problems. It's that head. So we were sort of thinking that it was potentially some sort of mouth infection. So we were going to treat it as such. But then I was actually able to get in contact with the man who dropped the snake off at the vet. And he said he found it on the side of the road. So sort of where the white line is on the side of the road, it was just coiled up there. Now we know exactly what had happened. We know he had been run over by a car, straight over the top of the head. This isn't uncommon with these pythons. In my personal experience, I have so many pythons come into care, and this actually drives me up the wall. I have so many pythons come into care, they've been run over the body, they've been run over the head, a couple weeks to a couple months in care, and they survive. I've actually got one in enclosure now that had its head run over that I'm healing up. I see on the internet a lot, in a lot of these snake ID pages, other pages, snake catcher pages even, I see people that have had pythons run over, and they just take them to the vet to be euthanized. With injuries exactly like this, they take them to the vet to be euthanized, or they'll tell people, oh, you run it over, it's going to die, when it's just simply not true. If a python gets run over, you need to stop. You need to ring someone, contain it, save it. I'm actually think 100% of the pythons that have been run over that I've brought into care have actually survived. 100%. There's been maybe 3 or 4 which we've known straight away that they're not going to survive when there's internal body parts that have come out the cloaca or whatnot. But if there's big slices in the side, we stitch it back up, they heal. The head's been run over, it's swollen, time, antibiotics, it heals. So that's something big that I really want to get out there, that these guys can and will survive with human intervention after being run over. With our lapids, with our venomous snakes, not so much. They tend to not be as squishy and robust and survive like our pythons. But yeah, just something for you guys to spread. If you ever see something on Facebook, Instagram, to spread this message. You can see how red and swollen the face is. Like all the gums, they're hanging out of the mouth. They're bright red. It's just doesn't look good at all. Just a temporary issue. Now this here, this is I think this was after 2 weeks in care. I dangled a rat in front of him, bang, straight away, chomped it down. No ifs, no buts, no issues. The swelling on the head has already gone down significantly. It's almost back to looking like a 100% healthy snake. And a few weeks later, we got him out, his last check, ready for release. And look at that. The tongue's flicking, he's moving around, he's smelling, he's sniffing, and he's just raring to get back home. So we took him a little bit further up the road to where he was actually found. This is the Gross River here, absolutely pristine habitat. It's honestly beautiful. He just worked his way a little bit further down around the river and to the roadway, so we brought him back up into the escarpment where he originally would have come from. And look at that view, it's just like nothing else, it's beautiful. We just sort of scouted the rocky areas, the outcrops, the cracks and crevices to try and find the perfect place to send him back into. Somewhere I can let him into where I feel like he's going to be safe and secure, happy, until he's comfortable to move out, whether during the next day, during the night, whenever, and find a more suitable spot, one that he will actually like, not one I chose for him. And there he is, absolutely stunning snake. No better feeling than being able to release our reptiles after such significant injuries. There he goes, finding himself into his little rock crevice there. And you're always so surprised about how small the cracks they can get into. They just bend and twist and contort their bodies, and they're so long, and they get into these tiny little holes, disappear. You'd be on a bushwalk, you've probably walked past hundreds of them, and you'd never even know, to be honest. And that's an absolute ripper, guys. That's one that so many people would say there's no chance of survival. I can guarantee there's a number of vets would just euthanize that snake on sight. I've seen it happen, I've witnessed it, but this is what we're looking to change, especially with this channel, with education, showing what can happen with the right care, the right time frames. Yeah, anything is possible. All right, so after all that, we are moving on to my #1 favorite rescue for 2023. Now it's going to be a very, very long time before something beats the satisfaction of this rescue. The amount of trips, the time, the money, the ingenuity I had to go through to catch this snake is on a level like no other. Now, it's a red-bellied black snake. This video actually didn't get many views, so not many of you would have seen this particular rescue, and it's incredible if I say so myself. So let's get stuck into it. Now there's a hell of a lot to this one, so I'm going to be remembering it as I go through it with you guys. So this particular snake was in a wastewater facility here in Western Sydney. Now it had fallen down into this pit, but luckily enough it was able to climb up onto this gate. I think from this pit here, if the gate opened up, it went down into the creek. So that should be clean water in there. So luckily he was able to climb up on top of that and live there. But basically, a whole lot of people that worked at this facility, especially the higher ups, they didn't give a shit about it. They wanted to leave it in there, wait for it to die. They didn't care, which is absolutely disgusting. Imagine if this was a koala, a kangaroo. You wouldn't just leave it in there to die, would you? You'd be doing anything and everything to get it out. But being a snake, whole lot of people involved in this company, a government company, didn't want anything to do with it. But luckily enough, a few good people do work at this company, and he was able to ring me. He was able to keep me updated throughout the entire process, and then a few others jumped in and helped along the way. So we got there, but this snake was in this pit for about 4 to 5 days after he was originally found. Who knows how long he was in there before prior. Now this is my first visit here, so I didn't really know what I was in for. I knew it was a deep pit. I got sent a video. I took this fishing net that I use here to catch birds and possums and whatnot, and I extended it right out, thinking hopefully I could lower that down and try and scoop him out, assuming he'd be a little bit lethargic or tired being in there for so long, but that wasn't the case. So yeah, I taped my snake hook on as well to get even more length, because this thing, it would have been about 10 meters down, 5 to 10 meters down. It was a deep pit, and as soon as I go to put the net and the hook down, disappears straight under the gate. It was sort of, the top of the gate was hollow, so he was going in, living in there, and then he'd come out during the day, get some sun, and he'd go to and fro. So that was day one of failure. So I had to head home, get some materials, and head back the next day. So I head back the next day. I got a few long pieces of timber, this small square timber that I just had laying around home. I got a real long length, and I duct taped my snake bag to that. You can see here the snake, he's laying on top of the pit at the moment. I start to lower the bag down, and I sort of try to put it near him, but again, he disappears back underneath. I thought maybe if I leave my bag there for a couple hours, possibly he'll come back up, be, oh, nice warm dark bag, let's go in here, and then I could pull him back up. So I left him there. I went for a walk in some neighbouring bushland and found this little lace monitor. I actually found two this day, but one of the filming wasn't that great, so I just filmed this one. And he ducks through the bush here, up the tree. So we get a little bit of a glimpse, but not too much. True lace monitor fashion. Away he goes. After a couple hours of bushwalking, I headed back to the water site to see if he'd gone into the bag or around the bag, and yeah, just no luck whatsoever. So now's where I had to come up with a plan, and I had no idea what I was going to do, because they did not want to lower me down into the pit. They didn't want to get someone to lower me down into the pit. I mean, I could have kept trying to negotiate something, but it would have taken days, weeks, a month, who knows. I just wanted to get him out. So I went to Bunnings, and I went to Bunnings, our local hardware store, and grabbed a whole bunch of things to make a trap, essentially. So to start off, I've got this dark tub here. So it's a heavy duty tub, something I knew would be strong and hold up what I needed it to do. Also a dark, non-see-through box, so he sees that as a nice dark hide. And there's Baby Belle, when she still was a baby. Oh, she's tiny there, actually. Get her out of the way, let's keep going. So the idea behind this box was I was going to try and make sort of a flap which would open up and down, and when the snake goes in, we could lower the flap, lock him in there, pull the box back up, snakes to safety, release him. So I was sort of just winging this. I didn't have any plans, any ideas what I'm doing, but wait till the final product. So we're just smoothing off all the front side here so I can get that nice flat face, so I can drop a door straight down the front with no gaps for the snake to get out once he's in. And the same thing for the lid, so the lid and the box both sit flush with a nice flat face. From there, we needed to know when and if the snake had actually gone into the box. So with a completely dark box, we obviously can't tell. So I cut a window in the top. I cut a rectangle of the black plastic out, and I bought another clear tub where I cut a bit of clear plastic. I screwed that clear plastic over the hole. So now we have our little window, and we can see if our snake is inside his nice hide. So we screw that all together, and now it's time to make our sliding frames, I guess. So I've got these pieces of metal, U-shaped pieces of metal, which I could screw onto the front face of our box, which was going to allow us to put our sliding door in and just move simply up and down like that. Now that our sliders are on, I just put a few little screws in, which will stop our door from going too far down or too far up, so it's just stuck in that nice, perfect little spot. Next up, we obviously need our snake to get in the hole somehow. Nice clean hole saw straight through the guts, right behind that door, for him to have the perfect access into his nice new hide. And here's the door I prepared earlier. Slip him in, put our screws in. Look at that. Up, down. And how cool is that? I was absolutely over the moon. I'm still so proud of this. I've drilled a couple holes in the front, so once we lowered it down, I could tie a string to that door for us to open and close the door once he's in or out. and also put some cable ties on the top that we could tie a Parramatta rope on to lower him down into the pit. Now we're back out here on site and you can see ropes going everywhere. So the only way to get this guy down was to come around that deck and then back around. So I think I was over this side above the gate. We had, I think, 2 other guys helping. So we're pulling ropes here, there to get it in the right place, around, flat and down onto that gate. It was bloody trickier than it looks. So once it's sitting on our gate there, you can see the orange string on the door. So just pull the orange string up, tied that up onto the platform here, and from there, the workers at the facility, they were just gonna come out, check every couple of hours or whatnot. Yes, that's right, this was a Friday, so we actually left this trap, this hide there over the weekend. So we had Saturday, Sunday to become accustomed to the hide and use it like there's no issues, like there's nothing to worry about. So first thing Monday morning, our facility worker got in, looked into our window in the top, red-bellied black snake coiled up inside. He undid the orange string, boop, dropped the door, got me on the blower, and I headed straight back out, and we proceeded to pull him up and get him out of that pit that he'd been long awaiting for. So we're getting him up out of the pit now. Try and keep him nice and still. Don't want the box to be flapping around or anything like that. I also put a paver in the bottom to make it the colouring a bit easier to see the snake and to weigh it down so it didn't swing in the breeze or fall off or anything. The snake's now at safety. We'll move him over to the grass, undo my million screws, pop the sides, and how good is this? Easiest snake catch ever. Straight out of the box into my bag. And everyone was so stoked. Everyone's happy. There was 3 or 4 of us there. We couldn't believe that we actually were able to get him out. Like I said, this facility's water runs out of that pit down into the creek system. So this snake obviously belongs in that creek system. It's gotten to that size by living there for 10, 15 plus years. We don't want to move it far away, but we also don't want to keep it close enough that he's going to end up back in that pit. So essentially I just followed that creek system down a while, found a suitable patch of bushland where he's not going to end up back in the pit or the facility, and we get him out of the bag. And there he is, a beautiful big example of a red-bellied black snake. And he was a lot bigger in person than he looked like down in the pit, which was a surprise. So luckily I did drill that hole big enough. But yeah, here I am marveling over the colours. They're just such a gorgeous snake. You never ever get sick of seeing these guys, no matter how common they are. They are just gorgeous. And away he goes, under the log, never to be seen again. Home happy and free. And I think I roll over onto the ground here because I'm exhausted, I'm thrilled, I'm over the moon. I'm so satisfied with this rescue. It's going to be hard to top in my entire career, I think. This is going to be #1 for a while. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Please share this around if you've learnt anything from this video. Share the information on Facebook, Instagram. If any stories or questions come up on the internet and something applies to one of my videos, please feel free to share your knowledge, what you now know. If this is something you want to be involved in, reach out to me. I can show you guys, I can get you guys involved in not just reptile rescues, but animal rescues. It's honestly so fulfilling. It's the best feeling in the world. Basically, I just hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you want to see more of this type of content. And please always like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And I'll see you on the next one.